The message arrived at 2:17 a.m., lighting up the dark bedroom with a pale blue glow that felt almost intrusive in the silence. He had been half asleep on the couch, the television still flickering quietly in the corner, when the vibration of his phone pulled him back to consciousness. Outside, the street was empty and wet from a recent drizzle, the orange streetlights reflecting on the pavement like quiet pools of fire. When he unlocked the screen, he saw the sender's name, the neighbor from across the narrow hallway, a woman he barely knew except for polite nods in the elevator and the occasional soft, "good evening." But the message wasn't a greeting. It was a single photo, followed by a short question. "Do you think it's beautiful?" Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Humanity Stories if you believe that every story in this world hides a lesson somewhere deep inside it. For a long moment he simply stared at the photo, confused. It wasn't the kind of picture anyone expected to receive in the middle of the night. The image showed her sitting on the edge of a dimly lit room, wearing a simple oversized sweater that looked far too big for her fragile frame. Her hair was messy, falling over her face as if she had run her hands through it 100 times. The room behind her was quiet and plain, a single lamp glowing softly, shadows stretching across the wall like silent witnesses. But what stood out the most was her expression. Her eyes were red, swollen from crying, yet they held something strangely calm, as if she had already crossed through a storm and was standing somewhere on the other side of it. He leaned back against the couch, confused by the strange intimacy of the message. They had never spoken for more than 30 seconds at a time. He knew she worked late because he often heard her footsteps in the hallway long after midnight. Sometimes he heard quiet music through the wall. Once or twice he thought he heard her laughing with someone on the phone. But most nights, the apartment across from his felt silent, the kind of silence that seemed too heavy for just one person. He looked again at the photo. At first glance, it didn't seem beautiful in the way people usually meant. There was no bright smile, no perfect lighting, no attempt to hide exhaustion or sadness. It looked raw, unfinished, like a moment someone normally deletes before anyone else sees it. Yet the longer he stared at it, the more something about it began to settle deep in his chest. Because the photo didn't look staged. It looked honest. He remembered the last time he had seen her in the hallway earlier that evening. She had been carrying groceries, struggling slightly with the weight of the bags. He had offered to help, but she politely refused with a quick smile that disappeared almost immediately after the elevator doors closed. At the time, he didn't think much of it. People in big apartment buildings rarely shared more than surface politeness. But now, sitting in the quiet glow of his phone screen, the photo felt like a window accidentally opened into someone's real life. Outside, the rain started again, soft drops tapping against the window like distant footsteps. He zoomed into the photo. Her eyes looked tired in a way that couldn't be hidden with makeup or bright lights. The room behind her looked almost empty except for a stack of boxes in the corner. Maybe she had moved in recently. Maybe she hadn't unpacked yet. Maybe there were stories behind those boxes that nobody else knew. He imagined her sitting there alone, holding the phone, deciding whether to send the photo or delete it. Maybe it took her 5 minutes. Maybe an hour. Maybe she stared at the screen wondering if anyone in the world would see her the way she really felt at that moment. And somehow, for reasons he didn't understand, she chose him. The hallway between their apartments was only 20 steps long, yet it suddenly felt like the distance between two entire lives. He stood up slowly and walked to the window, the phone still glowing in his hand. The city outside looked quiet and endless, thousands of windows hiding thousands of separate nights, each with its own silent struggles. Then he looked back at the photo again. And suddenly he understood what she meant. It wasn't about appearance. It was about vulnerability. The photo was beautiful because it wasn't pretending to be anything else. It was a moment of someone allowing themselves to be seen exactly as they were, tired, fragile, uncertain, but still present. Still alive in the middle of a long night. He typed something slowly, erased it, typed again, erased again. Words felt clumsy compared to the quiet weight of the image she had sent. Finally, after several minutes, he wrote a single sentence. Not because it sounded perfect, but because it felt true. Across the hallway, the light under her door was still visible. Maybe she was still sitting there, waiting for the small vibration that would tell her someone had answered. And in a world full of noise, filters, and carefully edited lives, sometimes the most beautiful thing anyone could send another person was simply a real moment. If this story made you feel something, even a small quiet